Hello, and today I have Ashley with me. She is currently working in medical research, and she used to be a zookeeper before that. And there's a whole story behind that, which we'll get into. So, Ashley, what's your background?
So I did a bachelor's degree in animal science at Ohio State and graduated in 2010. During that time, I got involved in animal behavior, which led me to zookeeping. So I did that for 4 years, I think, 4-ish years before I came over to Ireland to do my master's degree in zoology. With a focus on animal behavior and conservation. And then I got into working in lab research.
That's awesome. So, we were talking a little bit earlier, and then what made you decide to switch from zookeeping, which is really different, to medical research? Like, that's a huge transition. I kind of made a similar-ish thing. I was a zookeeper too, and then I moved on to other things. And so, yeah, it's just cool to see someone else who's kind of done that little switch.
Yeah. So zookeeping is fairly difficult to find a job. It's a very competitive field in every country, so I've learned.
Yes.
In Ireland, there's only the two zoos, so you're limited to strictly two zoos or kind of what I think of as more as like roadside attraction type zoos or backyard zoos, which usually tend not to be the greatest. So it was very difficult to get in. And then with a master's degree, nobody wants to hire you because I've been told they don't think that you'll take direction from management. Um,
Hmm. Interesting.
yeah, so that's when I got talking with some people at the university where I did my master's degree. And a job had come up. It's an animal care job. It's basically an animal care technician, I believe is what they're called in the States, working with the animals in the research lab. So still doing husbandry and enrichment and welfare type based things, just on a smaller scale.
Mhm. Yeah, and then I know you can't exactly talk about what you guys are researching and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting how like zookeeping, it seems like it's really specific, but you can apply it to so many different other fields.
Right.
It's like there's a lot of transferable skills, which is really cool. And yeah, I mean, for like you were saying earlier, it's so hard to stay in zookeeping, like, and like, what are the personal things that you've faced that have made it really challenging, and what kind of um, things that kind of came up in the course of your zookeeping career to say, maybe I don't want to stay in this, and what inspired the change, aside from, just the location in Ireland and everything like that.
So I think everybody you talk to that has been zookeeping is going to tell you first off the money. Um,
Yes.
it doesn't pay well. But again, I don't think any of us ever got into it for the money.
Hmm.
We got into it for the animals. Um, it was also a very kind of clicky field, and I think that it's gotten worse since I've left, which does not make me want to go back. Um,
Hmm.
but it is very clicky, and I've seen it very much so in Ireland because in Ireland it's such a small country and it's kind of stuck in the past. Like I joke around that it's only 1990 now. Like a couple of years ago, they only had three TV channels. That's how kind of behind Ireland is. But it's very much about who you know and not what you know. You'll get a job if you know somebody, even if you have no experience, where you might have 7 years of experience, but not know anybody and not get the job. And it's very clicky, very hard. I think that people kind of your name stands out if you're known for whether it is a good thing or a bad thing, your name gets passed around. So it's a clicky field and not a lot of people leave.
Yes,
People tend to
that's
work in
true.
it kind of until they retire. So zoos tend to hire from within as opposed to external hires. If you are hired externally, you tend to kind of start at the bottom, even if you have 7 years of experience. So I think zookeeping can be a really hard field to advance in.
Hmm.
Uh, but what I did like about it was that it gave me the chance to kind of branch out and see what I was more interested in. Was it conservation? Was it welfare? Was it behavior? Was it a combination of those? Where
Mm-hmm.
I think other fields, if I had started in them, maybe it would have been more kind of streamlined towards one direction. So that was the nice thing about zookeeping, but yeah.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Yeah. Been there, done that. Definitely a lot harder than most people realize. I think just getting into the field, it's one thing to get in, but then to stay, it's so challenging because I mean, there's the emotional toll, there's the physical toll. I mean, oh my goodness, like just it's so much hard physical work. And
Right.
then the emotional side of it, like people don't realize it's so difficult. I mean, you have to deal with animals. I mean, especially if you're there long term, you have to deal with animals basically through their whole life cycle. So it's like birth until death. And then the last part, I mean, whether that's expected or not, I mean, that's a huge emotional burden. And, you know, having been through it more than a few times, I mean, yeah, that's rough and that takes a lot out of you. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think there can be not in every facility, but I have
Hmm.
had experiences where management isn't necessarily involved with the animals as much as the keepers. So the keeper is saying, "Hey, look, the quality of life for this animal, it's not great. We really need to step in here." But then
Hmm.
management is saying, "Nope, this animal brings in us a lot of money, so we're going to hang on. We'll keep throwing medicine at it." And
Hmm.
that is a very difficult thing, is trying to find that balance between the actual animal care staff and the management and taking the appropriate care for the animals.
Hmm. Yeah, that is definitely like one of the challenges, again, that they don't talk about with zookeeping because it looks so glamorous from the outside. Oh, you gotta hang out with animals a day and play with them, which is a lie because you're cleaning more than like 90% of the day is cleaning and making sure things aren't falling apart and are safe and fixing things that the animals destroy. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not all warm fuzzy cuddles. It's
no.
a work.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, yeah, it really isn't. Yeah, it takes a lot. Um, and so in your current position, what are the things you like about being part of medical research? I mean, just the projects you're involved in, like, and the kind of outcomes that you're hoping to achieve.
What I like about it is that I still have that aspect of animal care. I still get to take care of the animals. I still get to make sure that their welfare is being looked after and then taken care of appropriately. But I also get to help people as well, inadvertently. Like there's, research on cancer, and that might be 10 years down the road that we actually see a result from that. But, that's something that I get to be involved in, even if it is indirectly. And I get to see kind of the progress of that kind of research and stuff like that, which is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that have certain diseases or family that maybe has cancer that I know that we're actually working on research for. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's nice to kind of see the advancements being done in the field. And it gives me kind of that peace of mind. Like there's enough of us there. And again, we're all there for the same job. So when I go at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, I'm not worried about what I'm going to come into the next day. I
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about coming in the next day and having had somebody make a decision that is either completely opposite of what we were trying to do or that changes everything. It's all fairly regimented. The researchers have to literally lay out everything from this is what we want to do to if A happens, then this is what we will do, or if B happens, then
Mm-hmm.
this is what we'll do. So going in kind of everything that you're going to deal with for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's
Uh,
just like there's a protocol to it, right?
right, right. And they're very good at making sure that the welfare is the priority. So
Mm-hmm.
even if it's something as simple as this animal can't walk as properly as they should be, we have a protocol for that, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to, oh, we'll just wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that can be frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, and so then, So you're now living abroad. What are the kind of the biggest challenges that you've faced? Just kind of, living, growing up in the States and then moving to another country and then kind of just, going to a career there. Because I know some people are kind of looking at that as like a potential option. Because I mean, I've done it and it was difficult. I mean, it's definitely like there's a culture shock to it. But what was kind of the biggest challenges for you personally?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I came to an English speaking country, so I don't have a language barrier. Um, Accents can be difficult, but I don't have a language barrier. So that was one thing I didn't have, but the cost of living is so high compared to where I was from, uh,
Mm,
that it's very difficult to try to kind of balance things and figure out, well, if I live in this place, I'm close to work, but rent is also €300 more than if I live in that place, so trying to
mhm.
find that. And I don't have a support system. I have no family here. Because I was doing my master's degree, which was fairly rigorous and it was research based. So I wasn't in classes. I was literally out in the field all day staring at animals, which was great, but you don't meet people. So I don't have a
Right.
support system here. You don't have family that you can kind of fall back on for anything. Whether it's, hey, I need to borrow money just to buy groceries for the week to get by until I'm paid, or hey, I've had
Hmm.
a really tough day. I just need somebody to talk to. Um,
Hmm.
so I've had to rely a lot on on Facebook group chats. Uh,
Which is how we met. But anyway.
exactly. And I think for me, just kind of everything is kind of up in the air. Like it's entirely reliant on, can I get a visa to stay? And some visas have restrictions on how many hours you can work or how many or what kind of places that you can work. And just trying to kind of navigate all of that and figure out what's the best way for me. And then I've been here, it'll be, when did I move here? It'll be 9 years actually in January. So longer than I thought. Uh, but when I go back to the US now, it's a massive culture shock for me going back because
Mm,
everything here is kind of easygoing and laid back. And like, I haven't had a car in 9 years because I don't need it. I can get by on public transport, which
right.
I miss having the freedom of a car, but I don't need one. Where
Right.
if I go to the States, it's all fast paced. It's all, kind of go, go, go. And you do need a car to go places and things like that. So I have like reverse culture shock now when I go home.
Right.
That's not
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, I kind of remember that too because when I was in Namibia, I mean, it was just so different because yeah, like I didn't have a vehicle because I was only supposed to be there for like a short while and then I ended up, going back for a longer stint, but I still didn't have a vehicle. And they were mostly stick shift, which I don't really know how to drive, so it was a really iffy proposition. And I was out in the middle of nowhere in a small field station essentially. So yeah, it was like completely different. And then I remember getting like flying in on the plane and getting off and like just being amazed at how many cars there were on the highway. I was like, this is really bizarre. And they're actually trees, like in green. What is this? This is very strange. So yeah, I totally get it. It was just really different, just, going back and being like, okay, I have to like kind of readjust to how things work. And um yeah, and just like sometimes like the language barrier and everything like that. Yeah, it was definitely a big shock coming back, which is weird because you think you live, you grew up in one place, you think, oh, it's fine, and then you go somewhere for a bit and you come back and you're like, wait, no, this is totally different. What the heck? This was normal before, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny how that works. So then, what kind of advice do you have for anyone who's interested in like a similar career path, like in going into medical research?
Um, I would say don't have expectations. Don't don't go in thinking this is what I'm going to do, this is what we're going to study, this is the result that we're going to get. Because anybody who's done any kind of scientific research knows your hypothesis is always wrong. Um, never going to turn out the way you think it's going to. Um, and especially in the medical field, things change so fast.
Hmm.
Like it is a big university in Ireland, but Ireland is like the size of West Virginia. It's a small country. So what research we're working on here, somebody in California may have already done. which I mean, they're very good at kind of communicating with other people doing the research, but there's always unknown things that can happen. And
Yes.
I think now I've never personally had any issue with them, but it also applies to zookeeping is you just have to be really careful because there are a lot of people out there who don't agree with what you're doing. And not
Yes.
all of them can be aggressive or violent, but you do run that risk. So just be careful who you say what to or how much you let people know. And just in medical research, especially, you have to try not to get attached, which is very hard. Coming from a
Hmm.
zookeeping background, we get attached. We name
Yes.
animals,
Yeah.
we take care of them. We sometimes stay up all night bottle feeding them until, they can live on their own. Where with medical research, just you have to try to distance yourself, which can be hard. I mean, animal people tend not to do well with that.
Yeah,
So, but
that's
yeah,
true.
I mean, at the end of the day, you are making a difference. Even if all you're doing is cleaning and feeding, you're still making a difference. And it's not just for that animal or for that researcher. I mean, the research that we're working on now could impact millions of people's lives. So you
Hmm.
are part of that, and I think that's important to remember because you do have really crappy days. You have days where nothing goes right
Hmm.
or experiments just kind of go upside down and it can be hard, but at the end of the day, you're making a difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's true. There's just that, yeah, things go sideways on research all the time. There's some weird curveball, and you're like, well, great. Now what do we do? Like, what's the plan? What's the plan? Do you have a plan for this? Like, yeah,
Right,
things
right.
happen. I mean, even in the field, I mean, things are gonna go haywire at some point or another. It's just that's the nature of the game.
Yeah.
And then what's the coolest thing that you've done so far in your career?
In the research background,
Hmm.
sorry. Wow, what is the coolest thing we've done? Um,
That you can actually talk about that you're not gonna get in trouble for.
yeah, I'm trying to, hmm. I don't know. I mean, I think for me personally, the coolest thing has just been kind of getting an idea of what kind of research is going on. You know, I know that they do research on cancers and on diseases and things like that, but I've never really kind of known what was out there. So just kind of getting a little bit more of an in-depth look and see, okay, like these are the advancements that are being made, or hey, we've had researchers that just finished up and looking back at their project, seeing actually that project has really done a lot. There was a
Hmm.
girl, she finished up right as I was starting, that was doing research on something about vision loss. And even
Hmm.
reading papers that she's done was, I mean, the work that she put in doesn't sound like she's done a lot, but it actually made a big difference. And it's allowed for a lot more advancements, which is actually really interesting.
Hmm.
For me, just kind of the coolest thing for me is kind of getting that inside knowledge on what kind of research is actually going on. But I mean, I did get into it from a research background.
Hmm.
So for me, it might be boring to other people, but I do enjoy
Hmm.
that.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah. And I mean, and it's what you're passionate about and stuff. And then I guess my final question is, how can we encourage diversity in STEM in general?
I think, and I know that this has been something that's been talked about a lot, but I think getting
Hmm.
young girls involved is
Yes.
really, I mean, I know for me, when I was in school, maths and sciences were really kind of geared towards the boys. I
Hmm.
did not have in my entire through high school up until I graduated high school, did not have a single female science or math teacher. They were all male.
Huh.
Um, yeah. And then in college, the only female professors that I had in kind of the science background were in the more animal behavior related classes or nutrition classes. So again, your math classes and your chemistry classes, they were all taught by males. Um, and kind of historically, I know it is a man's field. So I
Hmm.
think young girls involved and just being like, hey, look, this is actually really cool. And there's so
Hmm.
much that you can do with it. that I think that'll definitely be a good step. And also just kind of when people think about math, they just think strictly mathematics. And when they think about science, it's chemistry, it's physics, it's things like that. And there's so much more to it.
Hmm.
There's so much you can do with a background in any of the STEM fields. You can anything from coding for computers to
Hmm.
creating medical devices that save people's lives. So there's such a range of things. And I think that people tend to kind of streamline where they think that it is.
Hmm.
So that's what I would say. Definitely just kind of
Hmm.
opening people's eyes a bit and definitely getting girls involved because it's great to see other women involved, whether it's conservation, whether it's research,
Hmm.
whether it's teaching a math class for high school seniors,
Hmm.
it's great to
Yeah.
see other women involved.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. I know this was kind of last minute. But yeah, thanks again. And to all the viewers, thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in more of our content, go ahead and click the subscribe button down at the bottom below the video. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks.